Okay, gear facts friends, let's try doing some sampling on the Casio MZ-X300. I've got a Chaos pad here, which is a great sound source, and I'm going to press sampling. Let's see where we go from here. 3mm jack coming out there, and these sockets, these RCAs won't fit, so you do have a microphone socket in, but that'll only give you a mono sample pickup. So I'm going to extend these RCAs and turn them into TRS jacks. Very easy to find the sockets for sampling. And they're quite accessible too. I like that. They're very close to the top of this rim here. Personally, I think keyboards should just have their sockets up on the top there where you can clearly see them, but every manufacturer out there disagrees with me. Anyway, so we've pressed that sampling button and it comes up in the sampling mode here. And of course we have all our preset samples. This will only enable you to listen to samples though. To actually do some sampling, you have to go back to the main menu, over to pad. Okay, and then we've got a record button there, and we can select our 4 pads. So we've got pad number 1, and we're going to record something to that. On the next screen it says, do you want to record a phrase from the keyboard, or do you want to actually do some sampling? So we're going to click on sampling, and now it's in the armed or ready mode. So that can be activated by pressing play again, or it will auto start as soon as I play a sound. And it goes through and records the whole length. Sounds like it's come up really well. Now we can go into pad edit, and this will enable us to change the start position using the main value dial. Okay, and the play button down here will give you a sample. Of course, this sample doesn't change much as it goes, so it's going to sound quite the same until I've turned this dial a very long distance before I get to the last bit of that sample where things started to change. Maybe we'll come back to that. Exit. Now we can write that sample, even give it a name. Let's delete that. The naming system is very good in this, by the way. It's very quick, the buttons are nice and big. It's easier than writing a text on your phone. Let's just call it beep sample. Press enter and execute that. Are you sure you want to write that? Yes, indeed. And it's done. As I have said before and lamented though, the sample goes into the pad, but you can't assign it to the keyboard. Okay, let's try sampling a beat this time. So press record, we're choosing sampling, it's ready to go. And we'll see how that worked. Perfect. For some reason loop and hold are disabled here. I think I have to write the sample first before I can choose those options. In classic Casio form, their operating systems, even when they're this big and clear, tend to be quite confusing. So I'm going to write the sample. Okay, so that's complete. Now I do have the loop and hold options. Now you can hear it's a little out of time there, so I'd love to be able to edit the finish point of the sample, but now sample edit is disabled, which is, again, highly confusing, and unfortunately the MZ-X300 and many Casio keyboards suffer from this kind of illogical workflow. And it's a real shame because the sound quality it's pumping out is excellent. But when you think about that workflow and the fact that your samples will only go to the pads and not to the keys, there's a few minus points there for Casio's MZ. To be fair to the MZ though, I could store my samples to USB, go into my PC or Mac and edit them so that they are absolutely perfect, and then feed them back into the MZ. So you could think of the sampler as a bit of a bonus extra on top of a good synth, rather than something comprehensive that you should be able to rely on for all your sampling needs. Okay, so let's try making another sample to rhythmically match that short beat that we've got. I'm going to go to pad 2 and arm it in exactly the same way. Sampling. This time it's ready to go, and completed. Sounds good. Let's try them together on the pads. Of course, with our endpoints non-editable though, we can't make them loop in such a way that they're just going to mingle and continue to play indefinitely. Since chopping off that last shot in my video edit, guys, I've jumped through a few screens here and inexplicably I seem to have lost that sample. So I've got absolute silence there now. So I don't really know what's going on. There's my original beat. And again, this adds to the overall confusion of the process. I think it's something just to get used to though. Let's try it again. We're on pad number 2. We're going to record it, sampling, and finished. Sounds good. Pad edit, we're going to write that one to C02 where there is currently no data. I am sure I want to write that. Let's go back again. Okay, I've gone back there and now it's saying it wants to replace. And yes, we're doing that. So, I don't know, back to the main screen. And then let's find our way back to, back to pads. Now, I should have everything set up quite logically. Pad 1 for the beat, pad 2 for the arpeggio. Perfect. So if I was to sample those into a song, I could get them looping perfectly. So I guess in theory, when you combine the sampler and the sequencing capability of the MZ-X300, then yes, you can have perfect sampling loops. Again, I would stress, it's not a dedicated or comprehensive sampler. Think of the sampler as an added bonus. The way I will be thinking of it is that I can have 4 sound effects to run in the show that I play in my band, and that is very convenient and ideal for our needs. I've got you up right now. The setting button. Now this is where there's some interesting action. So we can change the key of our sample. And that does change the speed of it, of course. Timing synchronization, I would imagine, is about tempo syncing it to the beat. As you can see, I'll leave that off for the moment. Master volume, very important for your samples to get them all at the right level. And here's something that will also help us with our looping. You can set the number of beats contained in the loop. And actually, this pretty much solves our problem about looping. So we could have it as 1 bar there, for example, and it will synchronize to the tempo of the song. I guess the only trick there is that you'd have to be sure that your sample was running at, say, 140 beats per minute, and your song's running at 140 beats per minute, and that way you could make it work. We've got 1 and 2 here, so that shows us that there is a second page, group. Okay, so we can have 8 groups of 4 pads full of samples. So I'll just check the K oscillator to find out what tempo. We were at 120. If we now go back to our main menu and to rhythm, you'll see that we can use our tempo buttons over on the left here to reduce the tempo down to 120. So everything should be synchronized with our beat now. Yep, everything sounds like it's timing out nicely. In my next upload about this keyboard, I'm going to be going to the system settings back here and updating the operating system to 1.6, the most recent version. So that's something to look forward to. Until then, guys, have a great day. See you next time on Gear Facts.